Let me ask you a question tonight as we begin. What do you do when you hit the end of yourself? When you get to the end of your rope, when you think that you can't make it anymore, when the relationship that you've been clinging to falls apart, when the bills stack higher than your faith in your life, when it barely feels like you can hang on, when anxiety feels like it's got a chokehold on you, what do you do when you're in that moment? Because most of us typically do what we're trained to do, right? We grit our teeth, we hold on tight, we power through it, we try harder. We think if I can just get a little bit stronger, I'm going to push a little bit longer, I'm going to make it through. And everything eventually is just going to get better if I can just keep going. So what happens is we end up carrying things that we were never meant to carry. We end up carrying things that we were never meant to carry. We end up holding on to things that we should actually be letting go of. But what if I told you that hope wasn't about pushing through? What if I told you that hope begins with letting go? Hope begins at the place of surrender. We've been in this series on Sunday mornings called Journey to Hope, and we'll get to that hope on Sunday. But we're on this journey of finding hope. And though, Good Friday tonight, I want to take you to a place where everything changes. A place that isn't just symbolic, but a place that's personal. A place of surrender. The cross, it's the ultimate picture of surrender. Not just Jesus surrendering to the will of the Father, but the cross is that place where Jesus laid out an invitation for us. He invited us to spend eternity with him, where he laid it all down. The cross is when hope starts. The cross is when hope starts. That's the title of tonight's message. And so in Luke chapter 23 is where we're going to look tonight, the story of the cross. And in Luke 23, verse 32, it says, 2 others, both criminals, were led out to be executed with him. When they came to the place called the Skull, they nailed him to the cross. And the criminals were also crucified, one on his left and one on his right. Kids, I know we got kids in the room. Kids, can you imagine this scene with me? If you're a kiddo tonight, imagine Jesus being taken to the cross. The Son of God is there hanging on the cross. And as Jesus is hanging on the cross, people are laughing at him. As Jesus is hanging there on the cross, soldiers were hurting him that day. As Jesus was on the cross, instead of him trying to fight back, what did Jesus say as he was there on the cross? He said, forgive them. Jesus said, forgive them. He says, I forgive you. This isn't just a moment in history. This is the hinge of eternity. Because on one side, you've got guilt. On one side, you've got shame. On one side, you've got sin. On one side, you've got regret. On the other side of this hinge of eternity, you've got grace. You've got peace. You've got surrender. You've got forgiveness. And there in the middle was the cross. The cross was there. The most violent place became the most sacred place. The ugliest death gave birth to the greatest hope. Why? Because in this moment, Jesus wasn't just dying, he was surrendering. Not to Rome. He wasn't surrendering to the religious leaders of the day. He wasn't even surrendering to the crowd that was there chanting against him. He was surrendering to God's plan. And his plan, God's plan, wasn't a plan of punishment. God's plan was a plan of rescue. Surrender for kids can kind of be a big word. What does surrender mean? If we're kids, surrender means you give something over to somebody that you trust. That's surrender. Whether you give over your favorite stuffed animal to your grandma and grandpa or your mom and dad, or you give over your bike to somebody that you trust. Surrender is giving something over to somebody that you trust. For us adults, surrender is that moment. It's that moment that you stop fighting to fix everything about yourself. It's the moment you stop fighting to fix all of the brokenness in your life. It's the moment when you say, God, I trust you more than I trust me. That's the moment of surrender. Surrender starts with trust. Surrender in our lives, it starts with trust. Kids, have you ever jumped into a pool? Kids, can you raise your hand if you're a kid in here? Yeah, there's a couple adults that are still kids. I got you. I'm in the same spot. Kids, have you ever jumped into a pool before? Raise your hand if you jumped into a pool before. Now, have you jumped into a pool into mom or dad or grandma or grandpa's arms? Have you done that before? Right? When you jump into a pool, you jump into mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle. You jump into their arms. You jump because you trust them. You trust that when you take that leap, they're going to catch you. You trust them in that moment. Jesus trusted in what he was doing. Even though it was painful, even though it looked like everything had gone wrong, this is what he said in verse 46 of Luke 23. He said, Father, I entrust, there's that word trust, I entrust my spirit into your hands. Let's talk about control for a moment, all right? Because if we were being honest, we all like to be in charge. We all like to be in control of things. There's some of us that have a little bit extra bent of the control nature. I happen to be one of those people. I will admit it, all right? Whether it's control of the playlist on a road trip, which is just a small thing. Whether it's control of the thermostat at home, because how many of you fight over the thermostat during the winter and the summer months, right? Yeah, that happens, all right? It doesn't happen in my house, but it happens all the time. We want to be in control. Maybe it's just you want to be in control of how your life plays out, how things end up. But surrender, it requires trust. Jesus didn't just die. Jesus entrusted his spirit to the Father. That's not giving up. That's giving over. Right? Because when a kid jumps into the pool, into their parents' arms, they don't analyze the risk of, are they going to catch me? Is it far enough? They just jump and pray and have trust that dad, mom, whoever's going to be there, that they got me. That's surrender. That's trust, taking that leap of faith. So I got a question for you. What's one area of your life that you've been white-knuckling? What's an area of your life that you've been holding so tightly to, in control of, because you are so caught up in trying to be in control that you forget to surrender. You forget to trust. Is it your future? Your family? Your failures? See, here's the thing. You can't receive God's peace until you fully release control. Until you fully release control. See, surrender isn't about giving up. Surrender is about giving over to God. Surrender is about giving to God. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on whose understanding? Lean not on your own understanding. See, surrender isn't weakness, it's worship. Surrender isn't weakness, it's worship. Because when the world looked at the cross, the world saw defeat. When the world looked at the cross, they saw a failed mission. When the world looked at the cross, they saw a dead man hanging there on a tree. But in heaven, that moment where Jesus was on the cross, that moment in heaven was victory. Because Jesus trusted, because Jesus surrendered. He gave his life. It was an act of worship. It was a moment of victory. Verse 47 of Luke 23, when the Roman officer overseeing the execution saw what had happened, he worshiped. The Roman officer, the guy who had been part of putting Jesus on the cross, saw what took place and he worshiped and said, surely this man was innocent. Surely this man was innocent. Even a Roman soldier could see it. A Roman soldier who's part of all this. Surrender doesn't look like strength to the world. But in the kingdom, it's how we win. It's how we win in the kingdom, by surrendering. Think about this. What if the strongest thing that you could do this year was let go? What if the strongest thing that you could do this year was letting go of that grudge that has been holding you in captive? What if the strongest thing that you could do this year was letting go of the guilt? What if the strongest thing that you could do this year was letting go the image that you've been trying to keep up? 1 Peter chapter 2 says he personally carried our sins in his body on the cross so that we can be dead to sin and live for what is right. That's a God-sized rescue mission right there. That verse is a God-sized rescue mission. The cross carried our burdens so we don't have to. I love that. The cross is what carried our burdens so that we don't have to carry them. We don't have to be weighed down by them. We can lay them at the foot of the cross. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, Jesus says, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. He's saying, I'm not asking you to carry it. That's what I love about Jesus. I love about Jesus that he doesn't tell us to carry our stuff better, right? He doesn't look at you and say, oh, well, you got a heavy load there. You should probably try adjusting it a little bit, carry it a little differently. No, Jesus, he invites us to give our burdens to him. He invites us to hand it over. And there's some of you that are here today that have been trying to carry stuff for way too long. You've been walking around with this invisible backpack full of shame for that decision that you made all those years ago. Full of fear because of what's ahead. Full of guilt because you messed up at one point down the road, way back. Carrying the backpack of anger at how somebody hurt you way back. And carrying that backpack is like carrying a suitcase through the airport that's 60 pounds overweight, 10 years old, fallen apart, and Jesus is standing in front of you as the gate agent saying, would you just give it to me? Would you just hand it over to me? I'm not asking you to carry it. He's asking us to hand it over to him. He says, I'll carry it for you because I already took care of it. Isaiah 53 says, but he was pierced for our transgressions. Our sin, our mess, he was pierced. The nails went into his hands. Nails went through his feet. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment of the cross that gave us peace was upon him. By his wounds, we are healed. We are healed. Surrender, it means living differently. When we surrender, it means that we live differently. Any of my kids that are here, any kids ever played dress up before? For that matter, any adults ever played dress up before? With your grandkids, all right, we're not judging you. You ever played dress up before, right? Maybe you dressed up as a princess, you dressed up as a superhero, you dressed up as a pirate. My kids were pirates earlier today, right? But here's what happens. When you follow Jesus, you're not playing dress up and pretending, right? When you follow Jesus, he actually makes you new from the inside. Good Friday, the cross isn't just about tonight. Good Friday, it's about tomorrow. It's about the day after that and the day after that. It's about the next time that you face temptation. It's about the next time that you get into trouble. It's about the next time that you face a heartbreak. Because Galatians chapter 2, verse 20 says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. But Christ lives in me. Surrender, understand, surrender isn't just a one-time prayer. This isn't just a Good Friday feeling. Surrender is a Monday morning decision. It's not just tonight. It's not just Sunday that we celebrate Jesus rising from the dead, coming out of the grave. Surrender is a Monday morning decision. It's a Tuesday afternoon decision. It's a Wednesday lunchtime decision. When the world starts to come after you, surrender says, I'm giving it to God because Jesus, I trust you. It's a daily posture of waking up and saying, God, not my will, but your will be done. That's what surrender looks like. It's giving up to God. It's saying, God, I want less of me and more of you. It's saying, Jesus, lead me. I'm not in charge. Jesus, you are. Kids, you know what a white flag in a movie means? Any kids what does a white flag in a movie mean? A white flag in a movie, right, it means surrender. It means I give up, right? Whether it's some superhero waving it or some bad guy waving it. Usually in a kid's movie, it's a bad guy that says, I'm done, I give up. That white flag is a surrender, meaning I give up, I'm done fighting, I'm done doing whatever it is that's going on. But understand this, church, that Jesus didn't wave a white flag. Jesus went to the cross. He gave his body on the cross. That surrender, that moment of Jesus being on the cross, that was the white flag. That was his surrender, not a sign of weakness, but his surrender for you and for me. He was saying on the cross, when he waved his white flag of his body, he said, I surrender for you. I surrender for them. I'm surrendering for the world. He's saying, I'm surrendering so that you can stop fighting the battles. I'm surrendering so you don't have to keep carrying weights that you were never meant to carry by yourself. When Jesus went to the cross, he said, you don't have to die trying to fix yourself. When Jesus went to the cross, he said, you don't have to keep fighting to fake your faith. At the cross, Jesus says, lay it down. I've got you. I've got you. He's inviting you and he's inviting me to wave our own white flag, not because we're lost, but he's inviting us to wave our white flag because he's already won. He's already won. John 19, verse 30, when he had tasted it, he said, it is finished. He didn't say, you're finished. He said, it is finished. The striving, finished. The shame, finished. The sin, finished. It is finished. But here's the twist. You have to receive it. You still have to receive it. Surrender doesn't work halfway. So my question to you tonight is, what do you need to lay down? What do you need to lay down? What's one thing that you've been carrying that needs to be surrendered? Maybe it's time that you finally trust Jesus. Maybe it's time that you finally come back home. Maybe it's time to forgive that person. Maybe it's time to finally believe that you've been forgiven.